I want to point out something that you probably have never heard of. From 1942 to 45, there was a teacher, Madeline Morgan, who created the first African and African American centered curriculum. So the curriculum started, it was for grades 1 through 8, and it started in Africa, then moved through African American history and ended up in Chicago on the South Side. And it was used in all the Chicago public schools. So can you imagine if something like that was used in New York today, where children were learning about Africa and then moving through Harlem institutions, and then what is the state of Harlem and New York City today?
This is Thelma Dale Perkins, a person who probably you've never heard of before. She grew up in Washington, D.C. She got involved in the anti-police brutality campaigns there and the youth movement, and then moved after graduating from Howard University to New York City to become the executive director of the NNC during the war. During the war, she taught courses at the George Washington Carver School about race and African American history, while at the same time engaging in jobs campaigns across New York City, looking for seniority adjustment for black workers, and helping the political movement in New York in terms of electing Ben Davis and Adam Clayton Powell to office.
I just want to end with this note. I argued in a different essay that I wrote, Out of the Shadows, Making Visible the Creative Contributions of the Afro-Caribbean Diaspora, that there was a profound number of Caribbean creatives present during this period, and their presence didn't go unnoticed at that time. In fact, the Amsterdam News informed its readers in 1930 that, quote, with the exception of Kingston, Jamaica, Harlem was the largest West Indian city in the world. And I just want to do a roll call, and then I'll stop. So in chronological order by birth date, Norman Lewis was from Bermuda. His parents were from Bermuda. Ronald Joseph was from St. Kitts. Gwendolyn Knight was from Barbados. Ernest Critchlow, also Barbados. Roy de Carava was born to a Jamaican immigrant. Herb Gentry, raised in Harlem. Oh, can I just finish my roll call? Bob Blackburn, Jamaican parents. Larry Potter, from St. Kitts. Mavis Pusey, Kingston, Jamaica. Leroy Clark, Port of Spain, Trinidad. Vernell Rubin, Jamaica. And Ademola Lugabafola, St. Thomas.
And finally, you had Hiram Maristani, who was a professional photographer working in East Harlem, who became the Young Lords' sort of official photographer. And one of his jobs was that anybody who wanted to apply to the Lords, they had to have their picture taken to kind of have a record of who was in the organization. So he has an amazing archive of photos of not only that organization, but of East Harlem, all of the demonstrations, and he is still alive today. He is a great treasure in the East Harlem community.
I can tell you about a class that really changed my life. I mean, I love to read since I was a kid, so I was already turned on, but I had a class in 7th grade or 8th grade, I don't remember, but it was a poetry class, and it was required, and everyone was like, are you kidding me? And when we got to the class, the teacher, now I'm going to date myself, the teacher said, we're going to listen to albums, and we're going to look at and then we're going to read printouts of the lyrics, which, was not so easy to get at that point unless you owned the record and had it, if it was printed. There was no internet. We're going to look at the lyrics and talk about them as poetry. And we did that for like the first quarter, I think. And we did like Pink Floyd and Simon and Garfunkel, I don't know, whatever. But then we went to, from that he made connections to poetry, and then we went to book poetry. And it kind of was, once we were into reading the lyrics as poetry, we'd listen to the record or a song and then just deconstruct and then we moved to poetry eventually. And it really worked for everyone in the class. So I don't know, I don't work directly with kids all the time, but that really worked for us.